Good morning, everyone, and we're hoping that you are safe and sound at this moment. Here is the very latest following that massive earthquake that we had earlier this morning in South Central. It was felt all throughout the communities, and we are just being told that the tsunami warning and watch has been canceled.
We have been told, and according to officials, the earthquake was about a 7 magnitude and was centered just north of Anchorage. Several aftershocks of diminishing strength, but they were still felt significantly here as well. Now, directly following the quake, an emergency alert was issued for a tsunami warning, saying that there was danger on the coast for a tsunami and instructing people to go to higher ground.
And that was in effect up until just a few moments ago. We'll keep you informed if anything changes on those warnings and watches.
Taylor Perez, who I believe is going to show us some of the damage at one of the off-ramps. Taylor, what can you see?
So right here we are at one of the locations of some severe infrastructure damage. Right here we're at the off-ramp coming off of Minnesota onto International Airport Boulevard. And as you can see behind me, this off-ramp just absolutely collapsed. DOT tells us that the ground beneath the road here liquefied and pushed the berm out, and the road simply sunk down. Now, there were occupants in that vehicle. I spoke to them earlier. They walked away. They were fine. They were on their way to the airport, headed to California. They seemed in good spirits despite the overwhelming damage. So the DOT is warning folks to please stay away from the area. There are a lot of people stopping off of Minnesota to take pictures. They're actually causing a significant traffic issue, so they're hoping folks will move along and stay away from the area. They are working right now to shut down this off-ramp officially, and that's what we know from now here on the scene. And
a lot of shaken nerves, and we have the video to prove it. Tonight we have some of your video from today's earthquake showing what parents will do to protect their children from the danger. Channel 2's Derek Minnemeyer has that story tonight. Derek?
Yeah, Mike, I think all of us have a story to tell about the morning, rumbling many into panic mode. But the video we're about to show you makes that real. Parents who don't think, they just react to save their children. Take a look. Just a regular Friday for Jesse Elmore and his 3 kids getting ready for school.
Whoa, earthquake. I just started the coffee pot, poured myself a cup of coffee.
Keeping it cool for the kids. Just another quake in Alaska, Jesse thought. His 3rd child was downstairs. The frantic race to get the family to safety began.
So the first thing that went through my mind was, earthquake, this is a bigger one than we've had in a while. So the dad and me kicked in.
Jesse isn't the only shaking example of parental instincts kicking in. A similar start to the day for the Skillias. Jennifer Skillia was doing her makeup. She was a little late for the dramatic exit.
It was the first earthquake I've ever encountered like that, and I've lived through all my life.
She thought it was the end.
I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is the end of the world.
Mike, both families are safe and sound, a little bit shaken up, as we all are, but safe. Cleanup projects are underway across Anchorage and the Mat-Su. Back to you, Mike.
All right, thanks a lot, Derek. New tonight, a second school will be closed for the rest of the school year because of the earthquake damage.
First, it was Houston Middle School. Now it's Eagle River Elementary. The quake left cracks in the walls and serious structural damage.
Channel 2 education reporter Kaylinda Kendall has details for us tonight. Kaylinda?
Hi there, Mike and Rebecca. So the Anchorage School District announced the bad news this afternoon. Students will be relocated to Homestead and Birchwood Elementary School.
And we were under a table.
3rd grader Gabriella Miller says luckily the shaking started while she was still at home and not yet at school.
With my mom with her childcare kids, and we were under a table. We were helping them. They were just crying. Then we put on some music, and it helped a little.
The quake left classrooms at Eagle River Elementary School, like Gabriella's, looking like this. Books on the floor, tiles missing from the ceiling, and severe damage and cracks to the building.
PE and playing outside.
And Gabriella's favorite place in the school is off limits. Now, Eagle River Elementary School is red taped, closed until the end of the school year. Students are out of class and 70 other Anchorage schools needing repairs and cleaning up. leaving the question of what's next.
But I know these questions will be asked. Will we be extending the school year?
The superintendent says ASD's school calendar can handle a few days with students out of school.
We can extend the school year, but we also were permitted 5 days to be able to. We have 2 days built into, and the commissioner can talk about that.
I can substitute some of your calendar days for an emergency closure day, so it eliminates the need to actually extend the school year.
Shocked all of this.
And I've been in regular contact with the superintendents and expressed my desire to work with them to make sure we do everything possible to make sure that the schools are safe for the students when they return.
The school district says it's looking into all resources, helping schools hit the hardest.
Well, geologists say they know the cause of Friday's earthquake.
Channel 2's reporter Rich Maurer has that part of the story.
We're close to the zone where the Great Pacific Plate is being pulled into the Earth's core. Because this is such an active region, state and federal geologists have offices, monitoring stations, and laboratories here. I spoke to a USGS scientist today about how the Pacific Plate is the cause of this quake.
There's earthquakes related to the bending and pulling of the slab as it goes down into the mantle. And this earthquake occurred because that slab, as it's getting pulled down into the mantle, it sort of pulled apart a little bit, and then that's what made the earthquake.
The shockwaves from Friday's 7.0 quake moved around the country. Scientists at an academic organization tracked those movements on a map. But of greater consequences than the science is the role that understanding how the shaking affects buildings and roads.
Earthquakes don't kill people, buildings do.
Former Governor Bill Walker said at a news conference Friday that he complained about the earthquake rules when he was building his house.
I think that sometimes we grouse. I personally did when I built my house. I had to put 94 hold downs in my house. 94 hold down. Today I was pretty glad.
The USGS scientist said that those rules are what saved lives and property in Alaska.
There's no doubt that since the 1964 earthquake that building codes for making earthquake resistant and resilient buildings have improved a lot in South Central Alaska. There's no doubt that there's been a relatively progressive geotechnical and engineering community in Southern Alaska that has strongly advocated for better building standards within this region. And I think we can definitely give thanks to those people that things were not far worse in this earthquake.
And the city's threat level has been reduced as departments and services begin to come back online. And getting back to normal by going back to school, thousands of students returned to school in the Mat-Su borough today.
They filed into the hallways and classrooms while behind the scenes work crews conducted final safety tests on water, sewer, wells, and power.
Channel 2's Jill Burke has more.
27 schools reopened, reuniting students with friends and familiar faces, giving everyone a chance to share their earthquake stories and to take comfort in the familiar routine of a school day.
Good morning.
At John Shaw Elementary School, a sea of boots and backpacks
Morning, guys.
reunites familiar faces.
You have a good day, okay? See you later, buddy.
Young and old who have a lot to talk about.
I was actually right about here. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Lights went out. The dust was coming from the ceiling as it was shaking. And that was probably the eeriest feeling, having that dust come down with some lights that were flashing, with different alarms that were going off. You ready to get back into school? Yeah? After that long weekend? Yeah. I'm glad you brought your water bottle today.
Are there any cracks?
Are there any cracks? If there was any cracks, guess what? Mr. Russell was here all weekend and he fixed them already.
Mr. Russell is Russell Lloyd, the janitor and go-to fix-it man.
Good morning. How are you? Good to have you back. Good to have you back.
The other Russell is Principal David Russell.
Sun Dogs, I want to take a second to express how proud I am of you all during last week's earthquake.
He debriefed staff on Wednesday. Now, students get their turn.
All the lights went out, the ceiling started falling. We quickly got under the table, and I heard something, so I looked up, and all of the walls were just like waves. So I got under her desk and stayed there until my mom ran into the classroom and got me out of the school.
The school has had a thorough checkup. At drop-off, moms reassured their children.
They just asked if there was any cracks or anything like that in the school, and I told them no, that they would make sure that, that they were safe. So.
I feel really confident about that. A lot of eyes in a lot of different places. A over the facility as a whole.
Inside the classroom, students processed the big shake.
I got freaked out.
The way kids do best.
We went to go check on all of our animals. Like my brother's parakeets were traumatized.
Healing through storytelling.
My dog just didn't really know what was going on, and my hedgehog,
A hedgehog?
his little bed fell over.
It's a return to learning,
I think that's important that that routine continues.
a return to a safe place.
We also are keeping an eye out for those kids that have concerns and are still a little bit traumatized.
And along the way, a lesson or two about life.
A lot of cracks happened in a lot of houses, especially in the sheetrock, and that's something that they're going to be able to fix easily.
And about people. Human connections that help keep our community strong. Start dates have been announced for the remaining schools within the borough. Students will resume classes December 11th at 4 elementary schools: Big Lake, Denina, Goose Bay, and Kinnick. Mat-Su Central, Wasilla Middle, and Wasilla High will also start classes on that date. Then on the 12th, Houston High School opens to students. The next day, the 13th, Houston Middle School starts at Houston High. Finally, 3 schools, Colony Middle and High Schools and Finger Lake Elementary, are scheduled to open December 14th. Teachers return to school one day before students do, and it appears that everyone is prepared. A 4.8 magnitude aftershock rattled the building, but didn't seem to rattle nerves or interrupt class. In Wasilla, Jill Burke, Channel 2 News.
Okay, I got to say, Maria, I got choked up watching that story. I mean, just those little voices telling their stories and the teachers reassuring them today. What a great scene of getting back to some sense of normalcy.
It's therapeutic for them, and at the same time, you know, it gets them back into the normal swing of school, too.
And good news, that little girl's hedgehog sounds like it's going to be okay.
And the parakeet was a bit traumatized,
But I'm sure
okay.
they'll be okay, too.
So glad to hear all that.
Continuing now with our earthquake coverage, several homeowners in the Jewel Lake area face a difficult situation tonight after last week's earthquake. Multiple homes on just one street have all been flagged as unsuitable for full-time occupancy.
Now neighbors are rallying, trying to figure out what it will take to save their street and make their homes safe once more. Hank Davis is live with more in that neighborhood.
Well, Mike, Maria, imagine the nightmare of waking up during that earthquake only to find that your house is slowly sinking into the earth, and then multiply that by 14. And that's exactly what's going on in the neighborhood that you see behind me.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 structures, so that's 14 homes.
And that's 14 families looking for answers after an earthquake sent their homes sinking into the ground. Most of the houses at the end of this street in the Jewel Lake neighborhood have been flagged, and officials have recommended that the residents don't stay in their dwellings after dark.
For someone to come and just say, you know, you can't be here, it's a difficult pill to swallow. I understand why they had to do it.
You can see right here, and it gets better on the other side because it drops off a lot more. This is probably where it got hit the worst. This is about an 8-inch drop.
So far, all of the homes have sunk anywhere from 6 to 8 inches.
And every time we get another one of these little quakes, the house sinks a little bit more into the dirt.
The shifting also caused damage to the structural integrity of some houses, bursting water pipes, flooding crawl spaces, and warping doors and windows.
I don't think it's just a coincidence that all these houses had the same issue, but the side benefit is it has allowed us to all come together as a neighborhood and try to move forward.
Now the neighborhood is banding together, working on a plan and figuring out if their homes can be saved.
Our neighbors have, at least 3 of them, been here over 25 years. Now, my concern is we spend all this money to pick these houses back up. It's not going to do us any good if they fall right back down.
And so we've seen a few of those people actually coming and going. Some of the houses behind me already empty for the night. Others still trying to do a little bit more work before they head off and leave their homes behind. They say that's been difficult, and some of the neighbors actually have a meeting planned for later on tonight. They want to try to get together and figure out what their next step is towards saving their street. Back to you.
Hank Davis reporting live from Jewel Lake tonight. Thanks, Hank.
It's been nearly 2 weeks since the powerful earthquake hit south central Alaska. We are now learning that nearly 300 homes in Anchorage alone are either unsafe to live in or severely damaged. As Channel 2's Derek Minnemeyer explained, it's a similar situation out in the valley.
That's right, Alexis. And today we took a first look at preliminary damage reports from both respective governments. Matsu Borough Emergency Manager Casey Cook reports extensive damage throughout the borough. Of the 367 residential reports, 74 included major damages, one residence totally destroyed, needing permanent repairs. Of the 23 commercial reports, 4 businesses received major damage. The borough's infrastructure also took a big hit with 87 reports, including Vine Road, Houston Middle School suffering severe damages, closed for the remainder of the year, and damages at Port McKenzie and Settlers Bay. The municipality of Anchorage also released preliminary reports documenting significant damage from Turnagain all the way to Eagle River Chugiak. 96 homes red tagged, so severely damaged they've been determined unsafe for entry. 182 homes yellow tagged, labeled for restricted use only, with warnings that more damage can happen from aftershocks. So far, no confirmed deaths linked directly to the earthquake. Local engineers attribute this in part to sound design and civil engineering in Alaska.
Even though we did sustain damage to quite a few buildings, it's a real testament to the engineering community, the contractors, the inspectors throughout the state.
Emerson says this certificate of excellence is part of a long-standing legacy in Alaska.
I'd say there's guys sitting in their rocking chair raising a mug of beer to themselves because they designed a lot of these structures.
Now, Emerson says PDC Engineers is receiving on average 12 calls a day for design repairs, some with immediate commercial needs. And he does not expect the call volume to decrease anytime soon. Alexis?
All right, far from over. Thanks, Derek.
Colony Middle School students returned to class today, just 3 days before their winter break starts.
Now, they were the last students on the list of damaged schools in the Matsu to return to class. They needed approval from the fire marshal before they could reoccupy the building.
Channel 2's Sean Wilson brings us the story of their return.
Hey, Sade, what's going on? Welcome back.
I'm so glad you're back in school. How are you doing?
Today is the first day back for Colony Middle. We are excited that all of their ceiling grid and ceiling tile has been replaced.
This is Winston. Hi, Winston. He's just kind of here to take their mind off of what's been happening and give them something else to focus on. I'm just shaking up a little.
You're shaking up a little? Well, guess what? I'm here to totally support you today, and so are the rest of your teachers.
Dust completely covered everything.
We're going to start first period with teachers reviewing what happened during the earthquake.
I just ended up under my table. I leaped under, didn't even remember it happening. I was under there, and it felt like it lasted forever.
It was so sudden, it really caught me off guard.
And what we saw on November 30th is that every single one of you rose to that best self.
There was a light hanging right above my desk, and it almost fell on our stuff. It was scary.
It's important for students to process their experience. This is their first time back since the earthquake, and they're in their same classes that they experienced the earthquake in.
You kept calm. You went straight under your desks. And we evacuated. Hey guys, and the key word here is safely, right? We evacuated safely.
I was just gripping onto my my chair's legs and just looking around the classroom with all the lights out, and kids were like screaming and crying, and they were so scared.
The Promethean had come off the wall. We lost a ceiling tile. New Promethean installed. Ceiling tiles are all fixed.
Kids were staying really strong, and they really acted like they could get through this.
Some were feeling pretty good about being here. I mean, even had a 4. It was almost their best day ever. But I still had some students who were apprehensive about being here.
That was a historical moment that happened. We're going to be talking about the 2018 earthquake, just like we talk about the earthquake in 1964.
We forgot our social groups and our cliques, and we came together and really cared about each other.
Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. And have a great day.
It was a big job getting that school pulled back together. Spargo says that 14,000 square feet of ceiling tiles, lights, HVAC, and fire suppression was repaired before the students returned to it.
An Alaska company is using drones to help map out road damage after the big earthquake.
Now, they recently got a special waiver allowing them to fly over contractors as they work to fix the damaged roads.
Channel 2's Sean Wilson shows us how their work helps speed up the repair.
This aircraft, compared to some of the other aircraft that we'll use, is going to be considerably safer to fly over human beings. We received a certificate of waiver from the Federal Aviation Administration which allows us to operate unmanned aircraft in a less restricted fashion than a traditional operator. It's primarily a foam construction, and the propeller is actually designed to separate from the motor in the event of being obstructed. That makes us one of 8 to 10 companies in the United States that can operate over people. 2 of us were here as the earthquake happened, and we were actually on the phone. It was an interesting phone call.
Yeah, so what we're looking at right now is a 3D fly-through of the Vine Road damage.
This happened just after we obtained our certificate of waiver, and that allowed us to respond immediately to all the affected areas and kind of gather as much data as possible so that we could basically provide that information to the Department of Transportation and the other necessary entities so they could start their immediate repair efforts.
It's very rare to get earthquake damage data, so this was definitely a first for us.
It varied from developing 3D models of some of the larger affected areas like Vine Road, where there's significant volumetric damage on the road and the elevation and just the entire area. They wanted to understand more about why that road, essentially, the earthquake affected it in that particular way.
All of that data can be used to basically analyze where those points of failures were with those structures.
This event specifically kind of solidified the state's position on developing those innovative technologies and methodologies, because I think utilizing unmanned aircraft as opposed to other methods of survey allowed us to respond much quicker.
Rebuild this model and see how it failed.
It was a proud moment as an Alaskan to see the amount of damage that we saw, and then it was immediately repaired and within a short period of time.